only 26 letters. With these 26 magic symbols, however, millions of words are written every day.
Nowhere else are people so addicted to information and entertainment via the printed word. Every day the world comes thumping on the American doorstep, and nothing that happens anywhere remains long a secret from the American newspaper reader.
Okay, that was my friend Virginia Actum. We were in foundation class together, and we really enjoyed working together. And then we got into second year, and we were in so many different classes that she said, oh, she still wanted to work on a project with me. And we heard that there was a newspaper somewhere existing in the college, but we could never find it. There was meetings that we heard about, and then they were canceled. And I think that was Doug Copeland's paper that it came out quite sporadically, and then he graduated, and there was nothing. Like, we only saw this thing sometimes. So it was really Virginia's initiative. She said, let's start a newspaper, and I just thought, oh, it's going to be a thankless task. It's never going to survive. It'll be an uphill battle. I was really quite negative about it, and she really encouraged me. And she said, oh, I know this other guy who's in foundation now, Ian Verschere, and he's interested. So the three of us, Virginia Actum, Ian Verschere, and I, met a couple of times and decided, okay, well, let's try it. And there used to be an office, a small student society office down in the cafeteria. It was a little back room, and so we asked if we could share that office. We asked for space, and that's where it all began, was in this little teeny space that we had to share with the student society. And yeah, we just said, well, let's try one issue and see what it's going to be like, and it just grew from there.
I'd like to keep that particular piece of paper myself. I have a hunch it might turn out to be something pretty important. A document.
Sure.
Like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
The first one, when I first started teaching here, was called The X. It's the student newsletter from Emily Carr, and as you can see, it's in an 11 by 17 format, folded in half. This is the school under construction, and it had its own kind of look to it, some really interesting stuff. I wasn't familiar with that many of them because they stopped in 1980, but communication was always something that was lacking here at the school, and it was always attempted by a number of individuals or students who tried to get something happening. Doug Copeland in 1982 did a series of publications with ideas in it, but they were essentially his own, and he worked alone. He tried to get people to help him staple and collate, but they were his own kind of point of view. Here's what we used to look like in the old days. And then the school also has a whole history of when when somebody starts something, other people try and do the same thing. So at the same time that Doug was doing his, the paper came out, and it had a short lifespan. As you can see, the photocopy machine takes over, and does a little bit of something to socially unite the school. But I guess it was in what year was it, 85? Some students who were in the first year department here, Ian Verschere, Naomi, and Virginia Actum, who had all been in a program here in first year together, thought that they'd like to start a school newspaper. And the idea that they had was to make a newspaper with the same kind of format, the same kind of principles that a newspaper could be. I think we jokingly talked a little bit about having to watch Citizen Kane several times before this happened.
Is that really your idea of how to run a newspaper?
I don't know how to run a newspaper, Mr. Thatcher. I just try everything I can think of.
Carol Moisevich did the cover for that, and it was, when it first appeared, it created quite a excitement.
And then the name Planet of the Arts came to me.
As Naomi might say in one of her visions of clarity.
I remember that. It was really funny. I woke up and I was just thinking, Planet of the Arts. We had some meetings and people were saying, oh, let's call it 100% rag. Let's call it the paper. Let's call it, I can't even remember what all the other names were, but they seemed fairly mundane. And I thought, well, this is an art school paper. And so just that name came up, and as soon as I mentioned it in the meeting, everyone said, yeah, that's the name. So that was how it started.
But cane papers were once strong indeed, and once the prize seemed almost his.
The purpose is to encourage communication between different parts of the school. You can actually go onto the Planet of the Arts webpage, and there's a little statement about that I wrote up. So if you want, you could go on there and maybe video that screen, and it says how I feel pretty much right there, because I drafted it up myself. But everyone has a different view of it, but I think we still do, most of the people who work on it share that view, that it is a tool of communication between the students, the faculty, staff, administration. It's a way to bring topics up, it's a way to get change to occur, it's a way to make people aware of problems that come up in our little world here. I don't have a specific title, but it's pretty much managing editor or editorial group, or basically I'm one of the people who decides what kind of stories are going to go in the paper, how we want it to shape. In other words, if someone's going to do an interview, we'll have a say in what kind of direction we want the interview to take, what kind of questions to ask. We accept or refuse submissions, although we rarely refuse submissions. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But then as well, sometimes I do layout and production, which is the graphic end of it. And sometimes I usually end up doing copy editing, which is another job. I mean, all these different traditional newspaper jobs get rolled into one, usually, for everyone who's working. Everyone puts a hand in all the different jobs.
I think the whole idea of the Planet or the newspaper student publication is a wonderful one. Any newspaper has to have its own integrity. It has to be try even harder than any other. I'm losing it. Has to try really harder than. You have to be accountable. The newspaper is not a piece. Is not an artwork. It's more than an artwork. It represents ideas, and it's ideas that change the world, not the artwork. The ideas in this case can be expressed through words, through drawings, through images, but it's the whole paper together that celebrates the community that we have here at the school. The newspaper I thought was always interesting because the skills that people picked up in that. Were a real part of the dynamic of what real life is all about. It's important that the school have a publication that's student initiated, because it's the students really that ask the questions over and over again, such as school hours, but yeah, those are important questions. No administrator wants to hear them, but it's necessary to hear them to be reminded of some things, because we tend to forget quite easily. It's important that the students take the newspaper seriously, because it's not just an entertainment vehicle, because if you want entertainment you can watch television, but the newspaper requires work. When I talk to my students in class about entropy, because they like the notion of entropy because everything tends to decay, I have to remind them that what that really means is that in a closed system things turn to decay. And what changes the closed system is work that you put into it. And to me, the planet is the only thing that I see that comes out of this college that shows the work that all of us are capable of doing. And it's wonderful.